I needed a break. After a brutal quarter at work and a breakup that had left me feeling like a hollowed out version of myself, I decided to get away, anywhere quiet, cheap, and disconnected. That's when I found the Airbnb, a cabin tucked deep in the woods, 3 hours from the city, no neighbors for miles. The listing promised peace, nature, and solitude. Sounded perfect. It was late afternoon when I pulled up. The cabin was smaller than the photos made it look, but still charming in that rustic, old wood kind of way. Pine trees surrounded it like silent guards. A single chimney puffed out thin wisps of smoke. There was no check in person, just a lockbox with a key and a note from the host. Welcome, feel free to make yourself at home. There's coffee, firewood, and blankets inside. Please don't move anything in the bedroom closet. Enjoy your stay. Weirdly specific, but whatever. I was tired and I wasn't planning on poking through closets. Inside, the air smelled like cedar and something faintly sweet, maybe lavender. Everything was cozy, plaid cushions, a tiny kitchen, a fireplace already set with logs. I dumped my bags and made some instant coffee. No Wi Fi, no cell signal, just the way I wanted it. But that night I couldn't sleep. Not because of fear, at least not yet. It was the sound, soft creaking, like someone stepping gently across the floorboards. At first, I told myself it was the house settling or maybe wind against the wood. But around 1 a.m., I swear I heard something heavier, a thud, then a dragging sound. I sat up in bed, holding my breath. Silence. I didn't want to go looking, but I forced myself to check the living room. Nothing. Kitchen? Empty. Just as I turned to go back to bed, something caught my eye. Something I hadn't noticed before. Lying on the coffee table, perfectly centered, was a thick, worn journal with a cracked leather cover. I hadn't seen it earlier, and I know I didn't put it there. I stood frozen in the middle of the cabin, staring at the journal. It looked like it belonged in a museum. Weathered leather, the kind that had gone soft from years of use. There was no title, no name, just a faint symbol carved into the cover. A small circle with a line through it, almost like an eye that had been crossed out. I hadn't seen it when I arrived. I was sure of it. I had placed my coffee mug on that same table earlier, and I would have noticed a whole damn book. It hadn't been there. And yet, there it was. I told myself it must have been under something, maybe inside one of the drawers, and I hadn't noticed it. Maybe I just overlooked it in my exhaustion. Still, my hand shook as I picked it up. It felt strangely warm to the touch. Not heated, just not cold, the way old things usually are, like it had just been handled. The first few pages were blank, but then I hit handwriting, slanted, neat, and written in black ink that had faded to a murky gray. The first entry was dated August 14th, 2019. The silence here is too thick. It doesn't feel peaceful. It feels watched. I keep hearing footsteps at night, but when I check, the room is empty. Always empty. I thought this place would bring me clarity. Instead, I'm starting to feel like I'm coming apart. I flipped the page. Last night, I dreamt there was someone standing at the foot of the bed. I couldn't move, couldn't speak. They didn't do anything, just watched. I thought it was sleep paralysis, but when I woke up, the closet door was open. I always keep it shut. I stopped reading. My eyes drifted toward the bedroom. The closet door was cracked open just an inch. I hadn't touched it. The host's note came back to me. Please don't move anything in the bedroom closet. I didn't like this. I was too tired to deal with ghost stories or the creeping anxiety slowly wrapping its fingers around the back of my neck. I shoved the journal into one of the kitchen drawers and forced myself back into bed. I told myself this was just a weird coincidence, a leftover from a past guest, maybe someone journaling their own nervous thoughts while staying alone in the woods. I was good at rationalizing. It's a survival skill, but sleep didn't come easy. The wind picked up outside, slapping tree branches against the windows. The cabin made noises I hadn't noticed before, groans, pops, and something like whispering that might have just been the wind moving through the rafters. At 3:12 a.m., I woke up gasping. I don't even remember falling asleep, but I do remember the dream. There was someone sitting in the chair across from the bed, not standing, sitting. A man, I think. Pale face, eyes too wide, just watching me. He never moved, not even once. When I sat up in real life, heart racing, the chair was empty. But something was wrong. The air in the room felt heavier, charged, and the closet door was wide open. I stared at the closet door, trying to breathe through the pressure in my chest. It was fully open now, swinging slightly like it had been moved just moments ago. I hadn't touched it. I knew I hadn't. The sensible part of me scrambled for explanations. Old hinges, uneven flooring, maybe even a draft. But no window had been opened. The air in the room was still, almost suffocating. I reached for my phone, but of course, no signal, no Wi-Fi. Just a glowing no service bar at the top of the screen. Useless. I turned on the bedside lamp and forced myself out of bed. My legs didn't want to move. Every step toward the closet felt like I was dragging weights behind me. But I couldn't just leave it open like that. Not after that dream, not with that feeling of being watched still thick in the room. The closet was deep, the kind that could easily fit a person if they crouched down. My fingers hovered near the edge of the door as I listened. Nothing. No movement. No sound. Just the steady thud of my heartbeat echoing in my ears. I pulled it open all the way. Empty. Just a row of old coats hanging from a wooden rod. A small dust-covered trunk on the floor. That's it. No ghost. No man. No monster lurking in the shadows. I actually laughed a little, short and dry, like I'd scared myself into a panic over nothing. Still, I shut the door tightly and stacked my suitcase against it. It wasn't much, but it gave me the illusion of control. By morning, I almost convinced myself I'd overreacted. The sunlight spilled across the bed like it was trying to erase the memory of the night. I got up, made coffee, opened a few windows to let in the smell of pine and damp earth. For a few minutes, it felt like the peaceful escape I'd originally signed up for, until I opened the kitchen drawer. The journal was back on the coffee table. I froze. My mug hovered mid-air. No one else was in the cabin. No one could have moved it. I knew I'd shoved it deep into that drawer. I'd even heard the scrape of wood as I closed it. And now it was back, centered, like before, waiting. This time, there was a fresh entry, one that hadn't been there last night, dated only a day before my arrival. It doesn't like to be ignored. I tried to stop reading and the dreams got worse. It watches from the corners now. It knows when the journal's been moved. Don't shut the closet. Don't turn your back on the chair. And whatever you do, don't stop reading. My hands trembled as I turned the page. The next entry was already half written, mid-sentence, like someone had been writing when they were interrupted, or worse. I heard it whispering last night. I think it wants me to. That was it. Just a dash where the sentence should have continued. I put the journal down slowly, every nerve in my body tingling, like static under my skin. This wasn't leftover fiction. This wasn't an old guest's creative writing exercise. Something was happening here. I didn't leave. I should have. Every instinct in my body screamed at me to grab my bag, get in the car, and drive anywhere. But I didn't. Maybe I was too scared to admit something supernatural was happening. Maybe I didn't want to believe I'd stepped into something I couldn't explain. Or maybe a part of me was already under its influence. That day I tried to distract myself. I went for a walk through the woods surrounding the cabin. The trees were dense, tall, and eerily quiet. Even the birds seemed to avoid the place. There was no rustling, no animal tracks, just fallen leaves and silence so complete it felt unnatural. I walked until I couldn't see the cabin anymore, then turned back. For a second, I thought I saw something, a dark shape between the trees, not moving, not walking, just standing, watching. But when I looked again, it was gone. Back at the cabin, I decided to avoid the journal. I shoved it under the couch this time, then stacked a few books on top of it. I even locked the bedroom closet, jamming the key into my jeans pocket, like that alone could stop whatever was happening. I tried to make dinner, burned the rice, dropped a pan. My hands weren't steady. It felt like the air inside the cabin was growing heavier, thicker, like breathing through wool. That night, I didn't even try to sleep. I curled up on the couch with all the lights on, my back to the wall so I could see everything. I kept checking the bedroom door, waiting for it to creak open on its own. Around 2 a.m., I went to the bathroom. That's when I saw it. The mirror above the sink was fogged up even though I hadn't used any hot water. I wiped it with my hand and for a second, just 1 second, I saw him. Not a reflection, not a trick of the light. A man standing behind me, his face pale, skin drawn tight like old paper. His eyes were open too wide. His mouth didn't move, but I could feel him trying to speak. I spun around. Nothing. The room was empty. But when I looked back at the mirror, 4 words had appeared in the condensation. Read or stay forever. My stomach turned. I backed out of the bathroom, heart pounding so loudly I thought it would wake the trees. I didn't want to touch the journal again, but I was beginning to understand something important. This place, it wasn't haunted. Not exactly. It was fed. And the journal was its mouth. By the time I lifted the couch cushion, the journal was already back on the table. The books I'd stacked on top of it were neatly arranged beside it, untouched. This time, I didn't hesitate. I opened it. The next entry was waiting. My fingers traced the ink as I read. It shows you what you fear. But it's not a trick, not a hallucination. It's learning you, becoming part of you. The more you read, the more it follows. But the less you read, the more it punishes. Don't stop now. You've seen it. It's seen you. I heard a creak from the bedroom. Not the floor, the chair. I stared at the bedroom door. It hadn't moved, but I heard it. That low, wooden creak of pressure, like someone slowly shifting their weight in the chair. I didn't want to go in there, but I couldn't ignore it either. Every word in that journal had begun to bleed into reality. Dreams were becoming moments. Moments were becoming real. I had to know if what I feared was actually sitting in that room. With trembling hands, I picked up the flashlight and inched toward the bedroom. The air grew colder the closer I got. Not like maybe it's the weather cold. This was different. A biting inner cold, like walking into a memory that never belonged to you. The door was slightly ajar. I nudged it open. The room was bathed in dim moonlight, leaking through the window, pale and silver, like something stolen from a black and white photograph. And then I saw it. The chair in the corner, the one I dreamed about. It wasn't empty. A figure sat there, perfectly still, legs together, hands resting on its knees like it had been posed, its head tilted slightly to the side. I couldn't see its face, not clearly. Shadows wrapped around it like armor. But its eyes were visible, wide, too wide, not glowing, not blinking, just fixed on me, like it had been waiting. I tried to speak. Nothing came out. My throat closed up, my heart slamming against my ribs. I stepped back. My foot hit the edge of the bed with a thud. The figure moved, just a twitch, but enough to send me fleeing out of the room, slamming the door shut behind me. I shoved the dresser in front of it without thinking. My hands were shaking so violently I could barely grip the edges. Then I heard it, scraping from the other side. Something dragging its fingers across the door. Not clawing, not pounding. Just a long, deliberate stroke, like it wanted me to know it wasn't in a hurry, like it knew I wasn't going anywhere. I collapsed onto the couch and reached for the journal. My only source of answers now, my only thread to whoever had left it behind. The next entry had changed. I'm not talking about a new page. No. The old entry, the one I had already read, was different. Words had rearranged, new lines were added, and at the very bottom, in fresh, still wet ink, was this. It sits in the chair, so you'll feel safe knowing where it is. But it won't stay there forever. Not if you stop reading. You're almost out of time. And then, below that, something else. Something new. A new date. Today's date. My name. In handwriting that wasn't mine. May 11th. Jordan has begun to see it. He hears it, fears it. He will read again tomorrow, or the door will open. The journal knew my name. I never told it, never wrote it. And yet, it was there, in ink, already written. I didn't sleep. I couldn't. I spent the rest of the night on the floor, back pressed against the farthest wall from the bedroom, flashlight in one hand and the journal in the other. I read until the sun rose, every entry, every warning, every half-mad confession from whoever had been here before me. Some entries were erratic, written in trembling, desperate script. Others were calm, clinical, like the writer had made peace with whatever it was. But a theme repeated again and again. The journal feeds it. The journal contains it. The journal spreads it. And the last line of every entry ended the same way. Read to be safe. Stop. And it comes closer. By morning, the cabin was quiet again. The kind of quiet that doesn't feel peaceful, just wrong. The light outside looked duller, like the sun couldn't quite reach this place anymore. I stepped carefully toward the bedroom, unsure if I was being brave or just stupid. The dresser was still pressed against the door. But the door was open, not wide, just a few inches, but it had been shut. I had pushed heavy furniture against it. I knew it was shut. I inched closer. My breath hitched. The chair in the corner was empty. Of course it was. I turned back into the hallway and that's when I heard it. Breathing. Not mine. Not close. Distant, but not far. Rhythmic. Shallow. Like someone trying to stay quiet and doing a terrible job at it. The sound was coming from the kitchen. I backed into the main room and froze. There was no one there. No doors open. No windows cracked. But the breathing got louder. And then I saw it. On the far side of the room, just behind the old curtain that hung near the pantry, a shadow, tall, still, had slightly bent, as if listening. I didn't move. I didn't speak. I just looked down at the journal in my hands. A new line was being written right before my eyes. The pen moved by itself. The ink glided onto the page like a whisper. You looked away. It's not in the chair anymore. Now it's learning the house. And below that, do not let it learn you. I wanted to run. I should have run. But my legs wouldn't move. The shadow behind the curtain stepped back, not forward, back, like it had heard me thinking, like it was giving me space, like it was playing. And then I realized something terrifying. This wasn't the first cabin. This wasn't the only journal. On the inside cover, pressed faintly into the leather, was something I hadn't seen before. An address. Not this one, another. A location I didn't recognize. A name, Carver Hollow, Maine. And below that, journal number 14. Number 14. How many more were there? How many more people had read and fed it? How many never made it out to write the next entry? The breathing had stopped. The curtain was still. The chair in the bedroom remained empty. But the final line written in the journal chilled me more than anything else I had seen yet. It won't hurt you until you stop being afraid. That's when it becomes real. I didn't mean to write. My hand moved like it belonged to someone else. The journal lay flat on my lap and the pen, cold, heavier than it should have been, scraped across the page in slow, deliberate strokes. I watched the words appear, letter by letter, written in my own handwriting. May 12th. I think I'm the next one. I've fed it. I've feared it. I've written its story. That's how it survives. I dropped the pen. It rolled off the journal and landed on the floor with a small clack that echoed louder than it should have. I sat in silence, heart pounding like a war drum in my chest. The house was quiet again, but it wasn't empty. Somewhere in the walls, in the shadows, in the spaces between things, it moved. No footsteps, no breathing now, just an awful silent presence. The kind that presses against your spine and waits for you to notice. I turned to the journal, the final page, still blank, still waiting. One more entry. That's all it wanted. That's all it had ever wanted. The journal didn't just record fear, it created it, amplified it, spread it like rot. And the final entry? That was the seal, the trap. That's how the cycle began again. I remembered the address on the inside cover, Carver Hollow, Maine, journal number 14. This wasn't a haunting. It was a chain. A curse passed from one unlucky guest to the next like some sick tradition. Whoever filled the final page was marked, and wherever that last page was written, the next journal would appear. The house doesn't keep the spirit. The story does. And I had just become part of it. I had a choice. Stay, finish it, and let whatever was in this cabin take me or leave unfinished. Pass it on. Let someone else read the first page and wonder what it all means. I grabbed my bag, left the journal on the table, and didn't look back. Not even when I heard the chair creak one last time. Not when the wind whispered my name from the wrong side of the door. Not even when I passed the mirror in the hallway and saw the pale man watching me walk away. I drove all night, didn't stop, didn't sleep. When I checked my phone the next morning, I had signal again. I googled the address in Carver Hollow. There it was, another Airbnb, cozy, secluded, with great fall views. The listing had a single review, just one word, read. I don't know who left it. I don't want to know. All I know is that I didn't write the final page. I left it blank. But someone will. And when they do, journal begins. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more chilling tales. We upload terrifying news stories regularly, and you won't want to miss them. Check out our other scary videos. You never know what's waiting in the dark. Thanks for watching.